A couple weeks ago, it was announced that two of North America's largest amusement park operators, Six Flags and Cedar Fair, would merge and become one enormous company. It's been the talk of the town lately as roller coaster enthusiasts try and figure out if this will be a good thing or a bad thing. I too am trying to figure that out myself. Understand that this is probably some of the biggest news ever in amusement history, maybe the biggest since I became an enthusiast. I've had so many people ask me if I could speak about this in a video, but since the news was so huge and there were so many question marks, I wanted to let it simmer a little bit. But now that I've had some time to think about it and I've learned more about what's going down here, I think I'm finally ready to break down the pros and cons of the merger. Even by the end of the video, I doubt you guys will be able to get the answer you're looking for. Whether this is a good or bad thing simply isn't known yet and probably won't be known for years to come. I wouldn't expect any serious changes to how these parks operate for a while still, but there's a lot to discuss that short term as well. First, I do want to give a little more information on the motive behind this merge so that you can have a better understanding of what's going on, and by talking about the motive, we can immediately jump into pro number one, which is business. The motive of this merger has a lot to do with debt. Six Flags was in $2.27 billion in debt, and Cedar Fair was in $2.17 billion in debt. The economy has been struggling lately, and there may or may not be a recession on the horizon, so both individual companies would be at risk. I don't want to jump the gun and claim that there would be a possibility for bankruptcy, but it is true. That's why Cedar Fair sold California's Great America, because it sits on very expensive land, and that could help them bounce back on their debt a little bit. In 2009, Six Flags did file for bankruptcy, and at the time they were $2.4 billion in debt. That's really not far from where they're at now. This merger will be an opportunity for the combined company to refinance their debts before they begin to pay them off. Pro number two is that Cedar Fair will be the majority shareholder in this combined company. That means they'll have a larger role than Six Flags, and that is absolutely a good thing. Six Flags and Cedar Fair have always had a certain reputation. Six Flags is known for having slow operations, being a little dirty, having advertisements everywhere, and nasty food, whereas Cedar Fair is pretty much exactly the opposite. Really the gold standard for a regional park chain. Operationally, I'd imagine things to be more along the lines of how Cedar Fair parks are now, since it'll primarily be managed by existing Cedar Fair executives. The current CEO of Cedar Fair, Richard Zimmerman, will become the combined company CEO. On the other hand, the CEO of Six Flags, Salim Basoul, will fall under executive chairman of the combined company. For those of you who didn't like Salim Basoul's management of the Six Flags parks lately, that won't be as much of a concern anymore. I'm sure you guys know my opinion, considering I once made this video with a thumbnail that has Salim Basoul's face on it. Though I would consider this a good thing at the corporate level, understand that a park's success relies heavily on its management and leadership as well. At the moment, most of Six Flags parks are actually void of a park president, so I'd expect this change at corporate to be especially beneficial to those. For pro number three, I want to talk about ride investments. Six Flags and Cedar Fair are both known to have their pool of manufacturers that they like to go to for new rides and roller coasters. But Six Flags' pool is a lot smaller, at least before Salim came in and changed that a little, which is honestly one of the things I can commend him for. Still, Six Flags holds far less manufacturers close, with the big ones being Rocky Mountain Construction, SNS Worldwide, and Premier Rides. They also tend to go for cheaper, sometimes clonable coaster options. But Cedar Fair knows the importance of originality, and on top of that pulls from a larger variety of manufacturers. They work with Bolliger and Mabyard the most, but are also chill with all the big ones minus Intamin. Here's where things get interesting though. Could we start to see large B&Ns added to Six Flags parks again on a regular basis? Could we finally see one of their Giga coasters at Magic Mountain or Great Adventure? Could we see Gerstlauers again after the whole new Texas Giant mess? And then you have the new manufacturer Six Flags is dabbling with in 2024, Intamin, Vekoma, and the Gravity Group. Intamin is a big one, as if we started to see Intamin make their return to Cedar Fair parks again, that could be huge. I just wish it happened a little sooner because, okay, we're not doing this right now. Vekoma and the Gravity Group are the ones that I think are unfortunately misrepresented in both chains, so I'm stoked to potentially see more of those. There's no doubt that it'll be great to have a larger diversity of manufacturers to choose from when the combined company adds a new roller coaster or thrill ride. Up next, I want to talk about the combined company's incredible portfolio of parks. With this merger, there will be 42 parks under their name, which is absolutely astounding. And to the customer, this is great news because of pro number 4, season passes. It's already been announced that they will be unveiling a pass option that will allow you into all 42 of these parks. That is insane. Will it be more expensive than a Six Flags Diamond Elite Pass or a Cedar Fair Platinum Pass or Prestige Pass, whatever the hell they call them these days? Yes, most definitely. But will it be more expensive than both combined? I actually kind of doubt it. I think it'll cost a pretty penny, but will also be reasonable considering there's 42 parks and all of your benefits such as admission, free parking, and food and merchandise discounts will apply at all of them. It's especially convenient for those living in an area where there's a Six Flags and Cedar Fair park in close proximity with one another. I think about where I live in Southern California. Getting to visit Knott's Berry Farm and Six Flags Magic Mountain under the same pass is crazy. But also, them being under the same ownership is crazy. That'll definitely take some getting used to. The only caveat with this combined portfolio of 42 parks is it's not really what it seems. Con number one is the potential for small parks to be sold off. Ones that don't bring a lot of money in and don't see a lot of investment to begin with. begin with. I think of Michigan's Adventure, Great Escape, and Frontier City, but this could also extend to parks in that mid-size range like Dorney Park and Six Flags America. When you have so much competition nearby and are clearly falling behind, why stick around at all? And then there's the question of would they go out of their way to look for a buyer that would continue to operate them as amusement parks? Frankly, I don't think so, and if you need proof, look no further than Cedar Fair selling California's Great America to Prologis, a real estate company. Speaking of which, I think it's worth highlighting Northern California in particular. If this combined company now owns Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, they no longer have any reason to keep California's Great America running under the proposed 10 or so years. I think that was just drastically reduced, and that makes me very upset. For con number 2, I want to discuss the main downside that everyone's been talking about, and that's the monopoly of it all. Will there be as much competition as there was before? No, there won't be. And competition is always good to the consumer because it ensures new investments will be made at all sorts of places. Earlier, we mentioned the close proximity of Knott's Berry Farm and Six Flags Magic Mountain, but there's many more examples we can point to as well. Six Flags Great Adventure in Dorney Park, Worlds of Fun in Six Flags St. Louis, King's Dominion in Six Flags America, etc. Now, the good news is there still are other parks that add a lot to the competition in these areas that will not be under the combined company. For example, Knott's and Magic Mountain still have Disney, Universal, and SeaWorld nearby. Worlds of Fun and Six Flags St. Louis have Silver Dollar City. And King's Dominion and Six Flags America have a whole bunch of parks on the East Coast like Busch Gardens Williamsburg and Hershey Park. I don't think this is as big of a deal as some are making it out to be, but again, competition is always good to the consumer, and less of that obviously cannot be celebrated. Con number 3 also has a lot to do with ride investments, and that's that now that there's 42 parks in one chain, will they pick even fewer parks from this pool to get new major rides and roller coasters? Because that's something I do unfortunately anticipate, and if so, do the already neglected parks become even more neglected? If Six Flags St. Louis and Valley Fair, random example, were rarely ever getting major investments before, will they ever now? And if they just have these smaller parks that they never plan on improving, again, why hold on to them? Just thinking about how many flagship parks they'll now have, Cedar Point, Six Flags Magic Mountain, Kings Island, Six Flags Great America, Carowinds, Six Flags Great Adventure, and Canada's Wonderland, for them to all be due for a new big ride every few years, that's gonna leave a lot of parks out. Let me wrap things up with our 4th and final con, and that's all of the uncertainty in the future. I wish I could sit here and tell you guys what things will look like several years from now, but there are so many unanswered questions that we won't know the answer for a very long time. Are we just supposed to wonder about these things for the next couple of years, fueling our skepticism until we see any slight change that leads us to believe something? Well, unfortunately, I'm afraid we don't have a choice. It's not like the company is going to be 100% transparent anyways, and even if they were, they too likely don't know how things are going to look in the future. I'm very intrigued by what comes of this merger, as I think there is potential for some good, some bad, and some ugly. But overwhelmingly, which will it be? If you have any thoughts on the matter, I'd love to hear all about that in the comments, whether you are for or against the merger. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a like and subscribe to Coaster Dash so you don't miss any future content like this. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye guys.